School Board and SIC meeting. We do these twice a year, once in the fall semester and once in the spring semester. 6 o'clock start time. Any place in Beaufort County is problematic, but this is the most central school that we have in the district, and that's why OPT was picked for this meeting. On the agenda, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have a flag right here. If you please rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First item on the agenda is the update on the metal detectors. Our proud superintendent will be doing that. You want to take this one?
Good evening, everyone. Good to see all of you. Give us an opportunity to talk a little bit about this agenda item. We instituted or initiated this in our high schools, and we've gone through training. We visited schools in South Carolina who had different systems in place, and we selected an open gate system because it allows for a constant flow while still monitoring and checking. And we started on Tuesday, with our first high school, and we've done 2 high schools every day. So we're down to 1 high school that's left, and that'll be tomorrow in terms of initiating. But just to give you a general stat, one of the biggest concerns was certainly around the amount of time it would take for students to move through and get into the campus. And so on day 1 at May River, we started the line was cleared at 9, okay, in the morning, and that's 8:45 start time. So that was longer than is acceptable to us. We want to be different. But one of the challenges we found is that students, particularly student drivers who have been used to coming at 8:42 and getting in the building and into the seat by 8:45 doesn't work, right? They've got to come at least 5-7 minutes earlier. And as they go through it, there's a procedure through that entry that they have to go through. Like the laptop can't go through that because it'll set it off. So they have to pass that ramp. That's part of what procedure is. So understanding and learning the procedure was a component. So day 1, line was cleared at 9 o'clock. Day 2, the line was cleared at 8:55. Today was day 3, the line was cleared at 8:47. So you can see it's moving in the right direction. We expect to be under that 8:45 either tomorrow or Monday. But it does require planning and arriving at school a little bit earlier for our students. Battery Creek High School was the next day, and that was they were in by 9 on the first day. Today they were in by 8:33. Beaufort High School was at 9 o'clock on the first day. Today they were in by 8:45. Bluffton High School, today they were in at 9:01. We expect the same trend as students get used to it. It will be in moving quickly. Conehead Island High School was today. They started at 8:30. Today they were in at 8:39. So we fully expect that our schools will be in by that 8:40. Our entry point would be cleared by that 8:45 time in short order, because that time is not acceptable to be passed. So here's the weapons detection system, and I thought I'd set it up so we can show you today. And you can see, I don't know what the microphone's going to do, but you can just walk through, just so you see I've got 2 coming. I've got a set of keys, another set of keys, thumb drive, ID badge, didn't set it off, right? This is a test piece that represents or models a weapon. Okay. So that's essentially its design. But it has a constant flow, so students can just come right through and keep going. And we pass the laptop around, grab it, they get on the inside, they put their laptop away and keep going. So it's a relatively smooth process, relatively quick, but it is an adjustment. It's not something that they have had to do. Right? So we're proud of the work that the district team has put in. Dr. Lee has led a lot of that. Our protective services, Dave Grissom's over there. Dr. Cox has been a part of it. We've got different people we sent out to schools, and they've done a great job helping. But the real credit goes to our principals and our staff in schools who've done a great job executing on this, making sure that we cut down on those crimes. So that's essentially the report. I wanted you to see it, wanted to walk through it for you. You're welcome to walk through yourself if you like. And does anybody have any questions? Yes, sir.
Are they movable?
Yeah.
Move from one part of the building again.
They weigh about 20 to 25 pounds. They got handles on them. You can pick them up and move them. They're dummy proof, because I set that one up. So it's easy to set up. You just have to have the right distance. And they work pretty well. Yes.
High schools now, I understand that's your priority, down the line, middle school, elementaries.
Yeah, I think we're going to learn through this process and work through it, and then look at whatever is determined to go next. What are your thoughts?
Safety. Never. It's how you have to call your hurricane.
Recording in progress.
We get the times down to where they need to be, but again, if anybody's planning on arriving at 8:42 or 8:43, they're not going to get through. I mean, you can move about 800 people in about 30 minutes through that setup right there. So each one of those setups can do about 800 people. So if you have two of them set up, that's 1,600. I mean, in the first day, you're not going to do 800. In the first day, you're going to do a lot less than that, right? But as a student, here's an interesting thing. Those of you that have daughters, eye curlers, will set it off. So we're finding that, right? So that's part of these initial days, sorting that out. Yes.
When a student is late, what happens?
No, this doesn't do anything with somebody being late, other than my point is just that they're trying to come through at 8:42 and waiting in line. It's like going to the airport. You don't have to be at school an hour ahead of time with this to go through security, but when you go to the airport, you got to get there early. Plans around that. Well, it's the same idea, right? They can't come in 3 minutes before the bell rings because they're not going to get through. But if they're there, 7 to 10 minutes ahead of time, they should be fine.
And then what happens?
But how do they get in the building?
They miss this deadline.
No. Once that's going to be up all day long in the school, in the entrance. So right now we have these at a couple entrances in the school, like bus loop, and then in the front, right? And so essentially, once the buses are in, we shut it down on the bus loop side. The only entry into the campus is through the front.
There's two.
There's 4. At the moment. Yeah.
This will be outside of me.
They're at the main entrance. They're at the main entrance and they're at the bus loop in the back. Yeah. But I'll give you an example, schools are all configured a little bit differently, so that's part of the adjustment, right? And so one of our schools adjusted and shifted their entryway in order to facilitate the process of students coming in to make sure it was smooth.
Dr. Rodriguez will also be available for sporting events.
Yep, it will be available for sporting events as well. They're movable, and so they're about 20 to 25 pounds. Pick them up, it takes 30 seconds to set up.
I assume somebody's responsible for charging them every night.
They don't necessarily need to be charged every night. What's the hold on the battery?
So the entrances to the, like the bus loop, they can use them all week without having to charge the battery. So the one up front, they'll have to charge them every night, they've got 8 batteries for 4 slots. Keep them fresh.
Any pushback from students?
I have a son who is a dude, and he's like, I go on, I won't tell you what he said, but he pushed back a little bit. Today was his first day going through. I haven't talked to him yet. I'm sure he'll have all kinds of solutions for me when I get him. But no, honestly, they're shaking their heads. They've been at every one of the initiations. It's been really, the kids have been super easy.
Great.
They have been super easy on this. I thought that might be a challenge because you're going to take your laptop out. It's just inconvenient, right? Safety sometimes is inconvenient. And so I thought that might be a piece. They've been great about it. In fact, when they were setting up at one of the schools beforehand, they were excited to come through and try. Yeah. Logistics has been the hardest part, I think, for schools, and each one's a little bit different. So everybody's had to work a little slightly different plan for their facility. And but our school staff have done a great job. Really easy. So
Dr. Rodriguez, can you talk about the additional cost and additional security that we have to have for this?
So these are a one-time cost. It's not a recurring cost. But a recurring cost out of this is certainly we hired on an additional armed security guard for each campus because we wanted somebody to be. There's no point in doing this and not doing it all day long, right? Just if you're going to do it, you need to do it, right? Nobody says that a bad guy doesn't come in after 8:45, right? So you have to do it all day. So we hired an armed security guard to man that post all day. They can help, in just inside the campus supervision along the walkways and everything near that entryway. But when somebody comes to the door, they need to respond there so they can check them out. We have an additional protective services individual that we'll be hiring as well. And part of that responsibility will be the maintenance and upkeep of these things across the school district, plus other duties.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to go off the agenda because we still have people and a board member that's en route. So we're going to have the discussion on topic of interest by the SIC members at the last item on the agenda. And we'll have Ms. Crosby to talk about the budget. Let you know what we're looking at for budget this year.
Good evening, I'm Tanya Crosby, the Chief Financial Officer for the school district. This evening I have with me, two other staff members in the budget office, Ms. Katie Abar, Director of Budget, and Budget Analyst Jimmy Levi. So we're gonna do a brief presentation this evening, and then we're gonna ask you to do a little work together, some group work, to get us some feedback. So I'm gonna, without saying any more, because I'm gonna steal Ms. Abar's thunder, I'm gonna turn it over to her.
Thank you, good evening and welcome. My name is Katie, I'm the Director of Budget. This year, we have kind of flip-flopped how we're gathering feedback to develop the budget for the next school year. So in the past, we have brought the preliminary budget to the board, to the superintendent in April, and then we have gone out for public feedback. This time, we would like to start earlier in getting public feedback to really take your direction to develop the budget for the next school year. And we're meeting with many stakeholders, have already started meeting with a lot of people. So our agenda for this evening is really about transparency and collaboration. We want to talk about where the general fund money comes from, how we build the general fund for the next school year. And then we'll have an opportunity for breakout sessions where you can really provide your feedback for your budget priorities for the next school year. So what is the general fund? The general fund supports our day-to-day operations in the classroom with teaching and learning. It supports salaries and benefits for staff, utilities, maintenance, supplies. It does not include things like large construction projects or student meals or grant funded initiatives. So we're really looking at the priorities for what's in the classroom and how to better serve our students. Okay, so the funding for this school district, we have about 62% is funded by local revenue, by taxpayer dollars. The next pot of money is state funded revenue, which is about 37%. And then 0.4% of our funding comes from federal or grant funded revenue. This is a picture of how the general fund this school year is broken up. So about 78% is in salaries and benefits, 14% is in purchase or contracted services, another 4% is in supplies and materials, and then another 4% is in other expenditures. Okay, so for the next school year, it is of course still important to us that we are supporting students in classrooms, that we have academic innovation, competitive salaries, that we have safe, well-maintained buildings for our staff and for our students. And we would really like your feedback to help guide our priorities for this next school year. Okay, so in a moment, we will divide into breakout groups. We'll take about 10 minutes. Tim and I will be walking around, and we're also going to pass out notepads and pens if you want to break out into maybe 4 or 5 groups. What I'd like you to think about is, what are some of the programs or initiatives that are most meaningful to you in contributing to our students' academic success now? And then the second question I'd like you to think about is, what do you think the budget priorities should be for the next school year? So in your discussion groups, if you'll nominate one person to jot down your thoughts and ideas, and then at the end of the 10 minutes, we'll give you a microphone and a representative from each one of your groups. If you could please, share with us your key points from your discussions. I'm gonna leave these questions on the board so that you can refer to them while you're in your discussion groups. Before we break out into groups, do you have any questions Yes, sir.
What programs are initiated for you?
Everything, what you think is going well in the school right now, and then what you think you would like to see continue to be in the budget or maybe new in the budget for the next year. Okay, Jim and I will pass out the notepads and pens. Jim, Tanya and I will be walking around to answer any questions. We'll give you like a 2-minute heads up, when we're done with the discussions. minutes left before we come back together.
That's what we need to be. Yeah.
Should I invite her?
Okay, are we ready to come back together? And you'll choose one person who will share your key points. Kristen is gonna walk around with a microphone and you'll be able to share your ideas. You just wanna start and then go this way?
I'm gonna start and I'm gonna share anything.
Okay, so we're recording. We had a really good discussion, talking about things that were working, things that were going on. A couple of questions that need to be addressed at some point by the board and the superintendent, such as, double school capacity. Will it be, but some are busting at the seams, so are we gonna be doing some redistricting or closures? That will impact everything. We talked about things that were working, and things came up really, really good. The Ed Tech $7,000 is going well. Leader in Me is working, dual enrollment is working great. So those things we just wanted to bring up. Now, we also wanted to talk about what we saw as priorities. And one of these are tied together. We talked about increased salary for everybody, but start at the bottom. We need to work on getting those classified and those special ed people first, because they definitely some needs and there's some holes. We definitely need to increase the improvement for everybody, especially once again for SPED. We talked about the cell phone policy for kids is definitely working, and please don't waver. We talked about that our high needs schools, those that are Title I school, need additional incentives. I remember back in the day when we actually put one of those on 200-day calendars just so they could get more money, and that worked for those schools. There definitely needs to be more training for our teachers and our staff dealing with special ed kids and kids with high needs. In this day and age, that's probably just about every person out there, but there definitely needs to be more training for them. I'll ask my table, did I cover everything? Okay, they're saying I did, so I'll sit it.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett.
Guys know better. So the items that we felt were successful in contributing to students' academic success, we definitely feel like the competitive teacher salaries that we continue to push is definitely positive. It keeps retention high, ensures that we've got certified educators in every classroom. So really encouraging the board to continue making that a priority with our budget. Love the support around CTE funding for our career and tech ed programs in this district. Our CDFs at the high school level, and this is a high school kid, so forgive us. But our CDFs that are in our high school really do a wonderful job. Sure, absolutely. I didn't want to blow everybody away. Our CDFs do a great job with making sure that our students are all career and college ready for accountability purposes. Also said the accelerated academic programmatic funding. So our AP courses that the district supports, the IB, the Cambridge, the enrollment, like Terry just mentioned. Those are all great academic initiatives that we have in our district that keep some really high profile students and families in Beaufort County School District. You know, our enrollment is definitely a focus we have right now. And we're trying to bring some of our parents back and stay competitive with the private and charter schools. So really encourage funding there. Some of the goals to keep this thing moving would be, we hear a lot about our ML learners and that population. Many of our teachers have asked for curriculum and some a little more guidance. We're doing a lot of work. Our ML team at the district level is doing a lot of work to support them. Teaching, but any other additional resources, concrete resources that those teachers can be able to tap into and utilize is some continual feedback that we have. Would love to see our job coaches that are in each high school be placed on a higher scale, kind of tapping into what Terry mentioned about classified staff. Love to see these job coaches, the number who actually hold teacher certificates, not be paid on a classified level, but move them to a professional level, if not a certified level, if possible. And love the initiative that we've got with security and keeping our students safe, but would love to encourage the school board to consider true security safety teams in every school, to where the burden of security and the monitoring the students coming through isn't falling on the shoulders of the staff, such as teachers and counselors. So if we could potentially look at that for the future, obviously we're more than willing to step up and do what we need to do, but long term, that could be something we consider to be achieved. Yeah. Thank you.
Sunny, even if you're in elementary, middle, and high school, just hearing the commonalities of the tables of the things that are consistent across the district, that's great to hear. Our table talked about just many of the resources that are available to teachers now through learning, through Project Lead the Way, through a lot of the initiatives, not just in English and reading and writing and math, but also the science and social studies. So that's great. Lots of things to celebrate with teacher salaries. I think that has been a weight lifted off some of the teachers. Many of them have worked multiple jobs, and it's nice to hear them say, like, I have time in the afternoon to work in my classroom and then go home. And that's really powerful. As a teacher in Beaufort County, many of them have children that attend schools here too. the MTSS program, which supports some of our students that have gaps in their learning, especially after COVID, to have a consistent leadership district level that collaborates with the schools to make sure that the students have what they need has been a great initiative that we've seen over the years, and it just keeps getting better, not just for the reading and writing, but also for the math as well. And so that's been a school and district initiative, but it's great to see the continuity across the district, so that's been an awesome one. Being able to have counselors and social workers in all the schools, especially with COVID and in this day and age, being able to have immediate access to those support services for our students has been critical and really well received by families, and also the bridge between school and family, especially families in crisis living in this area. Sometimes working in the food and beverage and other industries, families come where they're in need one month and maybe not another, and having some resources for uniforms and food boxes and bridging those gaps and between school and community has been awesome. The online supports that students have, especially for middle and high school, if they are out for a class or for some reason, having access to the notes and the materials right then and being able to communicate with the teachers has been great for students as well. Communication platforms, and you know that there's a new one coming that would be consistent across the district, so we're excited about that. Having one-to-one devices, since a lot of districts don't have that. Students in Beaufort County don't realize how important and critical that's been, but it is a great initiative that's important. So on priorities, a lot of these things we want to keep, but we wanted to just kind of focus on the technology programs, whether it's Epic, Parent Square, IXL, having opportunities to engage in learning at home and those supports and resources for students and parents. Support staff needed based on enrollments of schools and the needs, like Terry said about Title I, to meet the student needs. That's counselors, social workers, interventionists, CDFs, and any of those based on the school's enrollment size too, especially if you're looking at ratio with guidance counselors. It's really hard for one guidance counselor to see, you know, a school of 500 or 600 students. Teacher salaries, the continued support has been wonderful, but also focus on nurses, social workers, some of those support staff that really are critical key pieces for our school.
So just like high school landed at the same table, for some reason, all of middle school landed at the same table here. Must be a shared experience. We had a discussion about promoting the innovative classes, Project Lead the Way classes, anything incorporating CTE, especially at the middle level, giving students early experiences in that. We all shared a love of our home ec and classes, shop class and things like that, and have students have that experience. Anything that we can incorporate in terms of personal finance throughout a student's journey, especially at the middle level. For those of you with middle level kids, they don't know what they're doing wrong. In terms of programs with the MTSS, the Read Assist, targeted intervention programs, anything dealing with our ML population. I know our schools have more than enough kids to put through those programs and only so much staff to make that happen. Anything to teacher training, along with that for current student needs. There are diagnostics that SC Ready is showing. In terms of teacher recruitment, lower class sizes, anything that is bringing teachers into the district, allowing us to keep the lower class size is crucial. We had a great conversation about teacher incentives, retaining teachers, possibly looking into teacher housing assistance, especially in the Hilton Head corridor, and developing business partnerships with that as well. Anything else?
Thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it. Our next steps are, we're going to, can you move it forward one more, Robin, and a little bit? Our next steps are we're going to collect your feedback, review it. We're continuing to meet with principals, leadership, the Board of Education. We'll have more community forums in the future and other opportunities where you can share your feedback if you'd like. Our schedule for the budget is between now and April. We are really looking at feedback, setting budget priorities. We will take the superintendent's budget to the Board of Education at the end of April for the preliminary budget reading. From there, the Board of Education will certify our budget after a couple of more readings, and then we go to county council for them to certify our budget after 4 readings. So usually by the end of June, we have a certified budget for the next school year. Robin, would you mind going back to the QR code? This is an additional way that you can share feedback. There is a budget survey live on BCSD Connected. It asks 5 questions on there, similar to what we asked tonight. Communications put it out last night. You can share it if you like, but it is live on the website. If you would like to scan the QR code, it will take you right to the survey. It's just another way that you can share your input. Again, I just want to thank you for joining us tonight, for giving us your input. If you have any questions, please reach out to me or Tanya or Jen. You can reach us at budgets@beaufort.k12.sc.us or give us a call anytime. But thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. So now, we'd like to just open it up for any other topics that you would like to discuss. This is just go around and then raise your hand, we'll bring the mic to you. And it's any topic of interest that you have. And I have a hand up already, great.
Hi, thanks for indulging me again. One of the things I've noticed, and I'm that person that has noticed, well, our particular school is working hard on housing initiative, because we've noticed that people can't necessarily afford Hilton Head prices on a teacher's budget. Which sort of brings me to the larger, I know that we've got a wonderful initiative to pay teachers more, but what is the Board of Education doing to solicit additional resources from the county? That 64% number, whatever that is, what is the Board of Education doing to get the citizens of the county on board with investing in our future? Because we've got Fort, we've got Boeing, we got the technology corridor with Gulfstream, and we're well positioned to do well in the future. We can give our teachers and our schools and our students the resources they need. So that's my long-winded budget. Thank you.
I think the superintendent's got some news about housing and that's address your funding.
So actually, on the Hilton Head scenario, we're actually in discussions with a group that has some property. I really can't say too much right now, but they're property adjacent to the school, and they want to build teacher housing. Okay, and it'd probably be I don't know how many, but it'd be teacher focused housing, which is a great spot because 4 campuses sit right there. That would be available, and it would be on 4 housing. So we're in some discussions around that. I think when it goes, it'll go fast. It'll happen fast.
Please don't hesitate to reach out to the Hilton Head School. They're starting to talk amongst their SICs about how to retain teachers, how to get great bridges up.
Yeah, so this would be looking at on both really the retention and recruitment piece around that, because it is a factor. We're already seeing that factor, and we're monitoring that issue. I just can't say too much about it, but because it's just
Sure. And I think it's reflected in our school climate survey. We regularly underscore
built in clusters, and we think that's part of the reason, but we also think that it's important to have teachers living close to their schools, so they're invested in their local communities and not coming from 45 minutes away where they don't see them in, you know, on the playground or sports or at church or
Grocery
whatever.
store.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Yeah, no, that's the idea, and it's right, adjacent to the campus. So there's it's just preliminary, but I think, and eventually will yield, some good results, and I don't expect it to be 10 years from now, I expect it to be lots sooner. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me, I think this is working. Okay, now it is, thank you. Let me talk about the political piece for the budget. As you saw, 64% comes from local property tax. We are the ones that submit the millage rate for that budget. And you know that the people that pay that are not the primary homeowners. Primary homeowners do not pay anything if it's your sole property, and it's only if you have second property or you're a landlord or businesses pay this operation. Well, 64% is paid by that, and also we get a little bit on a car. When you register your car, you'll see on there on your little tax form, it'll say school operations. And if you have a boat, it says the same thing. If you have an airplane, it's the same thing. But that's really small amounts. So one of the big things that we do is when we look at this, we say, what will the politics support? What will the public support? Because we have to raise millage every year for inflation. You know, our power bills go up, our supply bills go up, our fuel bills go up, just like for all of us. So that 3-4% inflation, we have to absorb that. And what can we put on there? And when we bring that up, here's what we get back, feedback from the public. Well, you know, it's rental properties that are paying a lot of the millage on this, and we're going to have to raise the rent. So we're looking for affordable housing, and you, school district, are raising the rent by causing the landlord to just have that money come from the rent that they pay. So we have to tell them, okay, and what we do every year is we say, okay, if your property is worth X number of dollars, it's going to mean a Y number of millage points raised to pay for that. And in the past, it's been $15, $16 a month, what it comes down to. And we say, now, are you sure you're adding $15, $16 a month to the rent, or are you adding $25 and say, well, the school district's doing it? Because we're going to publish, and we do this every year. This is what it will cost for a rental house that's worth $400,000. This is what you're going to be asked to pay addition, the landlord's going to be asked to pay. And so that's between you and the tenant now. And how much you raise the rent, how much we're going to charge you for the millage to support that, because it's a second home. Businesses also complain. They'll say, you're raising the property tax on us. We have to raise prices. You are raising inflation. So that's the balance that we have to continually play when we bring our budget to the county council for approval. And they ask us about these things when we have to go before them. We have, and we don't have a chart that I can show you, but we have been a very, very conservative on how much we are asking for the taxpayers to pay, but I've got some good news. The good news is that in the growth that's happening here, you see these new businesses coming in, that's more operational money that's coming in. Now, suppose you're a landlord and you sell your rental property. And they bought that property 10, 15 years ago for $200,000. And they sell it for $600,000. So that property is generating more income. And so that's why we're seeing revenue for the same millage rate raising up because of the inflated cost of the housing. And the same for the inflated cost of the property that businesses own. You know, they get assessed every 5 years by the state. And you might have seen this in the last reassessment year. People got a lot more taxes because their property went up in value. Now they blamed us. We said, wait a minute, we didn't change the millage. But your property's worth more. And just like if you make more, you pay more in income tax. So it's the same kind of a thing. So part of it for us is communication with the county council, communication with the state representatives, and communication with different groups. And Dr. Rodriguez does an outstanding job. He goes and talks to the Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, and so on, the different political parties. And he explains why we are spending the money, why we're asking for more millage. And we also have to realize we're in competition. We're in competition for teachers. And teachers, the schools of education are just not producing teachers like they used to. And so the influx of new teachers is down, the supply of teachers is down, the demand is high. And so right now we are paying more than Colleton, Hampton, Jasper County. And frankly, we've got a lot of teachers from Colleton, Jasper, and counties because we pay more. But Charleston now is at $65,000. That's $5,000 more for a starting teacher, the base pay. And we lose teachers to Charleston. And think about this. You're a 22-year-old graduate of the School of Education, and you come to the Low Country. What a great place. What a wonderful place to come in. And our HR department does a great job in selling our town. And what we have, got the beach, we got the weather, and so on. And these folks come in and they move in here. And what can a 22-year-old do for social life? Where can they go hang out with other 22-year-olds? Well, they go to Savannah, that's closest, but they pay less. Then they go to Charleston. Charleston, lots of things to do for a 22, 23, 24-year-old that we frankly just don't have in Beaufort County. And you can get, not right in the middle of Charleston, but on the outskirts of Charleston, you can find even more affordable housing than you can get in Beaufort County. So that's what we have to continually balance. Is we've got to be competitive with Charleston. That's one of the problems, and I have to tell you, for labor economics is tough because labor costs are different for different jobs. You know, for a nurse, for example, or for a counselor, for example, versus a teacher, they are in different labor markets. And so that's why we can't actually raise the salaries across the board, because we're operating in different labor markets to try to get the folks to come and work for us. So that's some of the things that we really spend a lot of time on. Anybody else want to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the issue of land and housing costs, it really sort of devolves back into the supply and demand. So, you know, our area has rightfully been very protective of putting land into trust and prohibiting development. But every time you take an acre of land out of development opportunities, that means the remaining acres go up in cost. Now, you marry that to the fact that during COVID, just think how many people were coming here and paying cash for homes. $1 million homes, $500,000 homes. So that meant we got a tremendous influx of demand. And yet we're still taking land and putting it into basically preserving it, which I'm not against. But as you talk to some of the other elected officials who control some of the zoning type of discussions, always ask them about how you balance having affordable land costs so that developers and people who are coming here to work see where they can actually have a sustainable, comfortable life at a reasonable salary. The second thing is, as homes are developed and residential communities are developed, one of the other elements that actually elevates cost is what do you require in those homes? An example, it can cost more than $700,000 to build 1 mile of road in development. So all of a sudden, the more miles you have in that development, the more the cost is. That's before you sell one house. The second thing is things that we all admire and appreciate, such as first floor windows that are hurricane resistant. Those are very expensive. So in other places, in Jasper maybe farther out in Hampton County, they may not require those. That lowers their cost. So as you have those conversations with your other elected officials that control zoning and what have you, please ask them to help us mitigate the high cost of living. But great questions. The other thing I just shared with you, in terms of the starting salaries that we have, and I think superintendent, we've gone from around 39,000 to 60.
In 2019, we were at about 37,500 roughly, to where we are now, which is 60,087. So about a 63% increase.
And if I could tag on to that, Greenville County, which is really, it's $1 billion budget that they have. But they have so much industry coming in. Many of you will have read that 3 weeks ago, there was a $9 billion announcement in Charleston where Google is putting these big AI computing centers. So there's a lot of demand, which is good for us that are here, but we also want to start thinking strategically about how do we make it easy for others who want to come here as well. So just wanted to tag on that. Thank you.
The other thing you need to know, your discussions with county council about their referendum. And, you know, we're not the only tax eating entity in the county. And so they're trying to figure out how to pass their referendum to get our roads taken care of. And we're working with them to say, you know, stop and think about it. You know what the traffic's like in June and July when the school's not going on? It's a lot better. That's because we put 21,000 kids into schools and we have 3,000 employees going to schools. And the mornings, that's why morning rush hour is such a nightmare. It's not quite as bad evening because our school gets out at 3 o'clock. So we're talking to them, listen, you gotta pass this referendum. And somebody's gonna be paying that. Now they wanna do it with sales tax. We can't fund our school with sales tax. It's just not feasible. So that's the other part of the political issue that we have to deal with, because everybody wants to get more money from taxpayers. So we have to make sure that we can justify that we're doing it with being very efficient and building new schools. You know, the new schools are going to use a lot less energy. That's going to help us. And that's money we can move from energy pot to other things. And so we will continue to work to bring down our costs without taking away from salaries and stopping the number of supplies you get and so on. You've got to have those. And so that's a lot of the things. Victor or Will, you like to say anything about it? Good. Okay, but I thank you for your question. Any other questions?
I say this as one of the people who was most, I was very happy we have the devices, limited. And I recognize that it's successful now. One thing I think that we did not think about, and it's becoming a little bit of an issue, is GPS devices. As a parent of an elementary school student, she doesn't have a phone. I would intend to give her a phone. But when I learned about gizmos, that's a GPS device and it does have the ability, parents can add in like 20 numbers. But you can put it on school mode. So when they're wearing it to school, all it is a watch and a GPS device. And then I know other parents who have just GPS devices. And in the time we live in now, I'm not terribly paranoid person. I know where she is all the time. As a former teacher myself, I know that teachers enforce things different. She wore that thing to school last year, no problem. Had it on school mode while she was there, no problem. The teacher she has this year insists on her taking it off. A kid in elementary school that put on the device, take it off, put it back on, that's an expensive device that's gonna get lost. I know another parent who has a kindergartner that, and he's very quiet, he didn't fall asleep on the bus. But thankfully, he did have one of these gizmos on. The bus driver was headed back to the lot in St. Helena where they park his buses. And he didn't get home till 7 o'clock that night. But the parents figured out where he was and figured out what was happening because he had this GPS device. So we made relook at that and give the teachers and the schools some guidance on those kinds of things.
I think part of the issue is, if I'm not mistaken, I'll have to go back and look at it, and I'm happy to do that, but I believe the proviso or the interpretation from the State Department of Education included any device like that, even like a communication device or even a watch kind of thing as well. So I think probably if it wasn't a factor last year, it's probably because, first of all, the State Department, we started at the beginning of the year, the State Department was spending the first half of the year interpreting. And then we had to adjust our own interpretation, even around lunchtime, as an example. High schools were allowed to have their phones at lunch. That had to go away in January because of the State Department of Education's interpretation. And I think their interpretation included the gizmos and the watches, communication, that kind of thing. But I'm happy to go back and check into that and see what we find. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Scott Shakespeare, I'm Ladies Allen Middle School Chair. I agree with that gentleman over there who says that you get some teachers that move in, especially up north and abroad, where we have a smaller population. They get a taste of the north and abroad on our side, but then they come on down to the south of the world. It's rampant. It's been happening a long time. I'd love to keep the teachers on our side of the bridge. But there's a reason for that. To tell you, it's Terry Bennett sitting right here. He and I opened up Ladies Allen Middle School in 1984. We've been young guy, and I'd love that kind of connection to continue. the people that I see still are teachers that we formed a solid group, and there was just a cohesiveness. We don't have that. The teachers are ready to go. We are making a lot of money. There is no doubt. We didn't make that much back then, but it didn't matter because we loved what we did. And I think that's the component we need to look at. The international teachers also we have at our school are dynamite. Most of them are, and we need to find a way to keep them. They are hardworking. They connect with our kids at our school. I would love that. Figure out a way of how we can keep them. And was thinking about the budget, and I remember Will Smith back then in the days, my point that we talked about is hall monitors. It may be a step down, maybe getting to our metal detectors, but maybe we could start at the middle schools, bringing back those hall monitors. They make if you have a hall monitor that is on the ball, student engaged, 180-day calendar, and we can get community members to step in and watch those bathrooms. We would probably eliminate 50% of our problems at school by keeping kids, because the teachers are in the room, and having people who can float around the school. It's not a highly expensive proposition. So that's my thought on the budget idea. We are doing great things, Dr. Rodriguez and the board with passing budgets, we're doing great things with med tech. These are all programs, they're initiatives, but we need people in the building who are child oriented and are gonna make a difference, and they will. And that will be pushed when we get into our January 14th and 21st meetings on the new year. And I truly hope there's more board members who are present to hear what we have to say. Because we make a trip out here, and I expect them to be here as well. But I appreciate what you've done, Dr. Rodriguez and the board, and I think we're in pretty good shape, but that's my couple points. I appreciate it, thank you.
Well, if we have no more questions or issues, I think we're about 15 minutes ahead of schedule. But unless there's any objection, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for coming and have a safe drive back. Oh, wait a minute. Go ahead.
I was going to say to Mr. I definitely will stay on that. Look forward to working with you and the SIC on that as well. And I also there was a lady who spoke about the ma'am, the watches have been starting your attention.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. The watches that you spoke about, if that is the fact when the superintendent get to check it, and then he gets around to check it to see if it is passed by the legislators, then what you would need to do is you would need to reach your state representatives. And maybe that may be something you may want to ask Shane Harrison or depending on what side of town you're in, anyone of your state representatives, state legislators who mandate those rules, if that could be something, because you definitely, I know it's definitely important to keep track of your kids, and you want to know where they are, so I can understand that. Mr. Smith, I've gotten around to it, and it's the policy and proviso specifically talks about watches and includes earbuds in that language, and that's why statewide, the state Department of Education essentially next year. But that would be the place to send an email around on that, and we're happy to convey that on your behalf as well. But
there is a big difference between
I would agree.
the gizmo and
And a watch.
smartwatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has no internet capability, she can't complain about it. I don't allow her, the fact that it can be put on off mode,
Yeah.
just be watch.
But we'll either tomorrow or early next week, we'll make a contact with the State Department and get a sort of ruling on that.
And the parent of the child, a kindergartner, she told me to use that tonight. And use that example, that was kindergartner and
Yep.
his parents had to chase him down.
Yep.
And they could because he had that.
Because
You know, Apple makes a tracker that you can put on your luggage and it will track where your luggage is. And it seems like you have your child carry a tracker. And you can look it up and see exactly where that tracker is at all times. And that shouldn't be a problem because you can't communicate back and forth. It just tells you what the location of that individual button like if it's out there. So that may be it. AirTag? Yeah, AirTag. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I got.